Hello, Dayton. Welcome to another episode of Like It Is Dayton. It is so good to see you all and to be back on the air. We took a little break, but we are back at it again. We have some interesting topics to discuss this time around, and I'm just very excited about the guests that we have on the show today. So we're going to talk about the stigma of addiction and recovery, and we have the professionals. We have some people here today to share their stories, to share their testimonies, as well as to share their experiences and their professionalism to go along the way of how we battle with the stigma of recovery and addiction. So without further ado, let me go ahead and first introduce our guests. We have Miss Madonna Marable. Miss Madonna, come on in, join us.
Hi, thanks so much.
Yes,
good.
Thank you so much for accepting our invitation. It is a pleasure to meet you. And so I will let you do the honors in introducing yourself, because I do not want to get any of your certifications and your degrees and all of your expertise. I do not want to get that wrong, because I know you worked hard for that. So we got to get it right. So
okay.
Tell everyone about yourself.
All right. Well, thank you for having me this evening. Shenise, may I call you Shenise?
Yes, please. Yes.
All right. Okay. Yes, my name is Madonna Marable. I'm a lifelong resident of Dayton, Ohio, born here, raised here, and very proud Daytonian. Currently, I actually do a lot of things in the community. My primary position now is working with public health, Dayton, Montgomery County addiction services, where we help support community members and their, I'll say, families, but particularly clients who want to get back on track, that want to improve the quality of their life and gain skills so that they can recover from the devastating effects that addiction has on a person's lives. And we know that it extends out not just to the person that is, I'll say, affected or afflicted, but also their family and the community as well. I also have a private practice where I help persons with what we call co-occurring disorders, mental health, emotional health conditions, trauma, and addiction, gambling use disorder as well. And I'm also a member of RAMCO and Dayton Fellowship Club.
All right.
And I have been in long-term recovery for 26 years, almost 27 years in September.
Amen. Amen. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you again. I cannot wait to pick your brain and hear more about the various initiatives and a part of the organizations that you are a part of. So thank you again. And so our next guest we have with us is Mr. Alan Walder. He's a peer-to-peer addiction supervisor. So how are you doing?
How you doing, Shenise?
I'm well. Thank you very much for joining us.
What I am is a person that's been in long-term recovery for 31 years.
Amen.
I am one of the founders of the Dayton Fellowship Club, which is an organization that helps people find freedom from addiction and mental health disorders. We've been in existence in the community since September 1990. And we've been in helping with youth programs, outreach, family planning, stuff that people can do besides use drugs, and let them know that it is another way out without the use of drugs. So that's part of our work where, professionally, peer support is a profession now, but it got sexy after they started letting Medicaid bill it. But we've been doing it over 3 decades. So, when the resources, it is a need for it so people can help others in a lived experience. I can share my experiences. I come from homelessness, jail, all of that stuff, but from found recovery has making me a productive member of the community who have value to the community. So once we find that it's people, recovery is real.
Yeah.
So my mission and my purpose in life is to let people know that recovery is available and challenge anyone to say that it is not.
It is. Yeah. Excellent.
All right.
Again, I can't wait for us to dive right into it and get to the conversation. Let's go ahead and Mr. Howard, come on in. Join us, Mr. Morris Howard.
Oh, I'm glad to be here. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, last minute, but I really appreciate you making those schedule conflicts, making them work out, and you adjusting your schedule to join us this evening. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Introduce yourself.
Well, I'm an artist here in Dayton. I was born here. I was gone for almost 30 years. I've been back in Dayton about 6 years, and
listen.
Well, I'm glad to be back home. I never thought that I would be living here, actually. And set of circumstances, my mother took ill in 2015. I came here from Georgia, and she passed away a couple of years later. And so, thank you. And one opportunity led to another, so here I am. Currently, I'm a private contractor. I teach art in the juvenile court system. I go into the county juvenile facilities, and I'm also the creator of the Funk Mural downtown, which is the honor, to honor all the funk bands that came out of Dayton.
Okay.
And
awesome.
And I'm also a member of the Dayton Fellowship Club, and I've been in recovery 30 years. And
awesome.
so,
congratulations. Amen.
Yeah, so I'm just real honored to be here. I'm honored to be able to do what I can to try to help our community. I love Dayton. It's my home, and I appreciate you. I appreciate your candor, and I definitely appreciate what you're trying to do for our city as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you. My sentiments are the same for you. So to all of you, for that matter. But certainly, last but not least, I have to introduce, the doctor, Mr. James, Dr. Dobbins. Hello, sir. How are you doing? We have some audio issues. We're going to work through those challenges.
Hi there.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes,
that's it. That's it.
Good
to see you. Thank you so much.
Sorry for my screen. I had to switch computers because the first one didn't work. But I am glad to be online and to join this wonderful panel of people, many of whom I have worked with for about 30 years. Because I too, in spite of all the credentials behind my name, I had my own experience with addiction. And so I think I want to be a poster child for the reality that addiction is no discriminator of station, person, gender, race, creed, none of that. It is an equal opportunity destroyer of lives. And, finding a way out is so important. And it takes courage. But through that courage, you find so much more of yourself. And so many other ways to be of great service to the community. So not only do I have my profession, but now I have an additional aspect to my calling. And so I'm really, really glad to be on this panel today.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. This was one of your ideas that I just helped you along the way, but you created, you came to me, a friend that you and I share, a mutual friend that we have, thought it would be an excellent idea, Miss Erica Bruton. And so I just really appreciate you and jumping right in and accepting the offer and taking charge, and you help facilitate and bring in a number of the guests that we have this evening. So thank you again. So we're going to jump right into it. The first question that I want to pose to you all is, what does the community really need to know about the resources about recovery and just dealing with drug addiction and alcohol abuse itself. Please, anyone just chime in and just share what you believe that the community really needs to know about the resources that are available for recovery and from drug addiction.
Well, the one resource that we need to really look at is to decriminalize addiction and put it into a public health system instead of the criminal system. We tried to lock our way out of this. It don't work. It does not work. So what we mean, we're just meaning when a person need help, that we can have the resources for them to get help. It took when I came to get some help for my addiction, I had to lie. They wasn't even taking people with substance abuse. Here it is, 31 years later, and we're working in the field, and it's still a struggle to get people the help they need. So we need to rethink, get out of the box, and how we get treatment for people. So it needs to be a prevention, treatment, and then recovery. You don't just send a person away to a hospital with an addiction problem and think that it's over with. It's a lifestyle change. It has to change, and we have to commit to this way of life. So some of that is some of the things when we can get, it's something that they're doing. It's called, I'm gonna get this in here right quick. It's called a US flip. What they're trying to do is legislate it and make sure that, you know, instead of sending, well, the police, you may need to send a mental health professional. Exactly. You may need to send a peer supporter. You may send somebody, because when you send the authorities, and then we overwhelming the police when we do this.
Right.
When we send them and they're not equipped to handle the situation, and then you're talking about a lot of killers and stuff that is going on. So with me is the system itself need to be redone.
Exactly.
Period. You know, and this is happening across the country. If you look at it, the state of Oregon done this already. So I'm giving y'all some data, some information as far as this is happening in this country. All right, I'm gonna let somebody else talk. That's my few minutes. Go ahead.
That's good. That's good. Thank you.
Well, let me piggyback that, because, you know, I agree with, in terms of decriminalizing addiction. I like what you said, Alan, and putting it more into the hands of the public health system, or it is a public health crisis, actually. But kind of looking at reducing the stigma, you know, in terms of like it being safe for a person to seek help, or for a person just to say, hey, I need help, without being ostracized, ridiculed, put down, you know, thinking that something's wrong with them. And I can go with my own story. I mean, it really started in my family. You know, it was a taboo. I come from a, well, you know, educated family, and family that was very spiritual. We were very close, and there were expectations in my family that, you know, we're supposed to be able to function, to thrive, to grow. And wait a minute, what is going on with you? You're different.
Yeah.
What is really going on? And so it's like, and then in the family, you know, don't talk, don't tell.
Yeah.
No, this isn't happening. Cover it up, sweep it up under the rug. Well, see, the opposite is what needed to happen. I, you know, person or I needed support, needed encouragement. And so to have a safe space, to be able to have some, and we're moving more toward that, safe space, safe people, intervention, so that, and also creating some new places that people can have that intervention and get the help that they need.
Okay.
Be creative.
Right.
Well, me myself, I, you know, personally, I'm a living resource, and the fact that I deal with young people 4 days a week that are, you know, either incarcerated or in another set of circumstances where they can't they can't leave a facility. They're court ordered there for treatment and behavioral issues and things like that. And lots of times it's about prevention as well as, because we're also talking about the potential addict. And the language that we use in our program that I can't mention, that's a 12-step program, is that the last to be lost is a stigma of being an addict, to be lost to freedom. And what that means is that those of us on this panel today that are living examples of what the recovering person can do once they've found recovery. And I found recovery, like I said, 30 years ago, and it changed my life. It put me in a position to be sitting here talking with you today. And it's allowed me to unlock the potential that I always had, that the disease of addiction prevented me from fully living out. And now I'm able to do that. And we could get people more into the prevention side, and we can help people before they get into the throes of addiction. And Alan is absolutely right. And I also have to chime in with Madonna. They're absolutely right. Is that a lot of things that most of your crime, most of the thefts and the robberies, the break-ins, the shootings, they're all, I believe, addiction related, a large part. And I didn't know what was wrong with me. I didn't know why other people could stop and I couldn't stop. And, I struggled with trying to be like everybody else and fell deeper into addiction. And so I was fortunate. I was in the U.S. military. I was in the Navy when I found recovery. And I had an understanding commanding officer who had lost two brothers, not to death, but they had lost their careers because of their addiction. And he understood me and he wanted to help me. So, God bless him, so I'm sitting here today. So we're living resources, all of us, that you can live without the use of drugs. It's such a part of our culture. It's a hard thing for young people to get away from, because and I'll say this and end with this. When I was young, I said, I'm young, I want to have fun, but but addiction, the fun was gone, and so it became an occupation, so to speak, to continue. But that's all I have on that. Thank you.
Thank you. I have so many questions to ask, but Dr. Dobbins, please, do you want to weigh in on that question?
I want to sort of try to rejoin what Madonna has said and what Alan has said. That is that one, certainly stigma is a critical issue, and what that means to me is the same thing that Alan said, is that we have to begin to think systemically, about all of these different causes and effects, all of these different possibilities for growth and change and development. We have to understand how addiction, like everything else in this society, is also related to other aspects of systemic oppression. There are so many things to think about. So what I would say that the public needs more than anything else is to change the way they think.
Yeah.
Because if they change the way they think, then they will stop feeling the way they feel. And if they stop feeling the way they feel, they'll stop behaving the way they behave around this issue of addiction. And we will get into the solution more so than dwelling in the problem.
Absolutely.
Solution.
So the question I have, so once upon a time, the state of Ohio, there was an influence of, if you will, mental health facilities, along with drug treatment centers. And we know that Daymont West closed a couple years ago now. So do we still have those resources or those facilities available? I know that there was a hard push from the state. So where do someone go to find that assistance that they need, or those resources that they need, that treatment center, if you will? I know there's now I believe it's the 115th, is that correct? The new treatment facility. So can any of you speak to where can someone go to find like the treatment center that they may need, the assistance from a treatment center that they may need, or are there any in our area?
I could say something really quick that comes to mind is there's a centralized place, the Adams Board. Okay. And the Adams Board serves mental health and addiction services along the spectrum, prevention, intervention, treatment, aftercare for young and old, all ages. And there is a really nice app called Get Help Now.
Okay.
That, persons in the community. Now, not everybody, you have to talk about access now. I mean, do they have the devices to be able to do that? But there are some brochures, but they're down on Monument Avenue. And, that's where I would first start at, the Adams Board, because they contract with many reputable, agencies. So that's where I would start.
I'm a plug the Dayton Fellowship Club. Look, I have to. Now we got a collaboration with Adams Board Public Health since when in 2017, when the overdose rate was up in our community, they finally reached out to us. But if you look on the west side of Dayton, the Dayton Fellowship Club is the only thing left there. That stuff that you mentioned, Daymont West, Project Cure, all of that stuff, we have done collaboration. Even the Urban League, all of those type of services are no longer on the west side of Dayton.
Right.
So what we've been doing is in peer-to-peer recovery, we are resources to get them find where the prevention, treatment, and recovery is. What the club provides is recovery. After they get through prevention, treatment, then they have to understand that it is a recovering community there ready to embrace them to continue on with their life. So we've been doing this on our own, helping each other to sustain this when the resources need to be available. We never turned anyone away. We never asked them if they had insurance or anything like that. What we did is said, what was the need of the community? Now this needs to grow. So we helped develop RAMCO, which is supported by Adams Board and Public Health, of recovery organizations that's in the community. That's not just West, that's West, East, wherever any recovery community, Voices of the Fellowship, FOA, whoever wants to get the word about what's in our community that can help. But we need to put more resources because the problem is huge. What we need is, and I'm going to be quiet after this, Shenise, we need a COVID-19 response to this problem that's been happening for decades. It ain't just started. But they haven't been putting the resources in what we can do to solve this problem. I was in some training, the lady said, it's been an epidemic in your neighborhood. I said, it sure has. It just didn't start when the body started coming up in 2017. But then, if you know, during the pandemic, addiction, more overdose was happening in our community, even in the pandemic. So the pandemic was dominating the news cycle, but people were still dying from drug addiction and drug overdoses.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm so, because that was one of the questions that I definitely wanted to pose to each of you to see if in fact within your profession and the work that you all have been doing, have there been an uptake in regards to addiction and overdose, and thank you very much for touching on that. And so, do you want to tell everyone about, I know you mentioned it, but if there's a number that they can text is for HOPE to 741741. We're going to make sure that we list that. Again, this is Ramco with Brother Allen was speaking about, as well as Miss Madonna. A number of the panelists here, they're part of this organization. So we want to make sure that we drop that information down so that people can definitely tap into, as well as the app that Miss Madonna was mentioning, Get Help Now. Those are all resources that are available. And so we touched on mental health and they're understanding that relationship. So do you all want to talk a little bit more in detail about just having the understanding and knowing that there is in fact a relationship between addiction and mental health? And again, Brother Allen, you talked about it in regards to what we're experiencing right now, the global pandemic, and there being a huge need for addressing those issues.
Well, I'd like to say that statistically, we know that there is a high correlation between drug addiction and any type of other type of societal problem that is going on. And and COVID is also no exception to that rule.
Yeah.
So with the onset of COVID, alcohol sales went through the roof, along with firearm sales. And sales on all kind of groceries and merchandise. So people stocked up, in other words, like people do. And but also alcohol is a way, of course, of coping with stress, so some people think and believe. And other drugs are also a way of coping with stress, so some people believe. And so that we know that increased. But from a mental health standpoint, the using is a behavior. Behind the using is the reason. And part of the reason that alcohol use and drug use went up is because COVID was trauma. And when we have trauma, we try to anesthetize
is your wife? She's here. Is she? What's your wife's name? Alina. Where's Alina? Like you're listening to something. She's right there. Hi, Alina.
Okay, there's another voice coming in over my mic. We try to anesthetize the pain. We numb the pain, and so that is one of the common uses of any kind of drug is pain. And to kill pain. And so what we're talking about, certainly with street drugs, then, if that's what you're using to deal with the boredom of being locked down for 2 years, to deal with the financial instability that COVID created, to deal with the relational stress inside the home with other people, to deal with what we know are the mental health problems of being cooped up and locked up. If you're using street drugs for that, addiction soon might follow. So there's absolutely a direct correlation. And I think, talking about the Fellowship Club, we're planning to do a lot of programming over the summer to talk about not only recovery from drugs, but recovery from COVID and drugs.
Yes, I wanted, if I could chime in, if I may. And as Jim just mentioned, we're Alan, I, and Jim. We are now working on an art project, which is based on prevention. and we're going to have youth from 12 to 17 work on a project that's going to be about a year long, and it's called Restart the Arts Boards of Recovery. And so we're going to string some panels along, and it's going to be a traveling exhibit at the end. But we're shooting in this particular project for prevention. And one of the things, the first thing to go in our school systems are the arts, and in our public schools. And we don't have, they don't have band at some of the schools anymore. They don't have, some schools don't even have an art program like they used to. And these are things to try to put kids in another direction. And every little bit helps. And what I find with young people, they may not even think that they like art until they get involved. I deal with kids like that all the time. So I just wanted to chime in with that. And then with this, I liked how Jim started off, because this is true. The disease of addiction doesn't discriminate, but people do discriminate. And the racial bias that we've had to deal with, even already having the disease of addiction running rampant through our communities, and like Jim said, pain, and then you're Black on top of it. And so I'm just putting it out there, and just being honest about it. But addiction is not a Black disease. But
that's right.
But we were going to prison for a rock, and I just wonder how many lives could have been saved, not only from prison but from death, if the attention would have been put on it the way it should have been.
Exactly. Yeah. So how do we right those wrongs? And I think that that's an interesting time that we're in right now to do just that, right? To treat it as a disease, to make sure that we're addressing that pain and that suffering, that PTSD, the trauma that so many of our Black and Brown communities have dealt with, and that people continuously that they're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. So again, I know, so I will tell you from just some personal experience, I had a family member who struggled with drug addiction, and you're absolutely correct. It was just like, there was this stigma that went along with it. You want to stay away. You don't want to really talk about it. You want to ignore it, but everyone in the family know that there is an issue. And then, just years down the line, as I became a young adult, I questioned that family member, and just dealing with life itself, as a Black woman in America, and just really knowing the challenges of being, of trying to, cope and deal with the challenges of living, and just having to understand that there is that amount of pain that individuals deal with, and not knowing how to talk through and how to deal with those challenges. So I want to know from you all and your experience in the work that you do, how can family members be more supportive? How do addiction affect and not only the individuals, but the families and the communities as a whole? Because to your point, the Southern Dayton View, that area, it was just saturated with drugs, and still to this day, there's a heavy drug presence in that area. And so, how do we address those issues in our community? How do we deal with those issues of addiction with individually as well as with our families?
We have to educate. That's a part of it. Like I said, some of the stuff is just ignorance. I was ignorant about addiction. I didn't know, I thought, I was having a good time. A lot of people said, oh, I got involved because I was come from a dysfunctional, dysfunctional. No, that was what you did. You just had a nice time. You went to the party, you danced, and next thing I know, I'm in the county jail.
Yeah.
You know, I'm losing my license. I'm getting consequences that I wasn't getting. And then I didn't know that it was a disease. It doesn't, if you do some history about this, Shenise, whatever drug they got out there, it's still the same addiction. So that's what we was in some panel discussion here recently. They talking about a specific substance. I said, it doesn't matter what subject it is, it's still addiction. So now you're gonna smoke your way out of it. Marijuana is legal. So let's smoke our way. Even they already tried that with alcohol. They've been talking about this in this country for a while, but they haven't been trying to address it. We have to address the problem, not the symptom, you know. So we're not saying that everybody that takes a drink is addicted or addict, but you know, the facts are the facts. This thing have affected our communities. And then you go even deeper. When you living in addiction, you living in what? Poverty, homelessness, job, you're not employable. Look, Shenise, we got more shelters for animals than people.
Yeah.
In this community, across this country. What are our priorities?
Exactly.
You know, we got to start caring about people.
That's right.
And when the people lose hope, you know, it's just people are feeding, they're just hopeless. So, you know, our responsibility is to educate. And then when we think, and we've been saying this up front with them, when you think it's getting a little better, don't run off talking about it's got better in the same way that's why I use COVID as a response. Okay, it's a little better, y'all, but people still dying from COVID. Yeah. And they still pushing. Okay, they still got a campaign trying to make sure the word get out. We got to do that same type of effort. You know, we got to keep putting it out. Whether they accept it that day, you never know. Me and Jim talks about this all the time. Sometimes to ask for help ain't at 9 to 5. You may get a late call about. So are we ready as a community to accept somebody when they say at 2, 3, 4, 5 in the morning, I'm done, y'all. But you can lock them up in the county, but you can't put them into a facility to help save their life. So these are some of the things that we're going to have to keep educating and get people to say, hey, y'all, maybe that is a better idea, because you have tried everything that you could to lock us up. That don't work, y'all. It got worser. They closed the mental health facilities, treatment facility, and that even wasn't fair on the police, y'all. They put all that pressure on them, and they couldn't deal with it. And look what we got, the shootings. All of this stuff is connected to me when you look at it with the right lens. Yeah. All right, I don't want to get to preaching on here, but no,
come on. We're having an authentic conversation, so no, please.
Okay.
I appreciate that. And your my sentiments are the same. So I want to hear from Miss Madonna and Brother Howard and Dr. Dobbins, please.
Well, I think that we need to do exactly what you're doing, Shenise, is having more conversations. Mm-hmm. Okay, let me say that one more time, okay?
Okay.
I believe what you're doing is like, oh gosh, thank you.
You're welcome.
We need to have more conversations across the community. And it starts just like this. And so if we can, I hesitate to say come together, but that's what needs to happen. But when I say we come together, that means all of us, the community. If we may have differences of opinions, we may look different, we may sound different, but guess what? We're all human beings. Mm-hmm. We all have certain rights and privileges just to live and exist. You know, so as I was listening to my brother Alan talk and my other brothers, I'm thinking about, and again, I'm coming from a public health perspective, what they call social determinants of health. It's like those roots. That's what we need to address, and we need to be honest about it, not sugarcoat it, but talk about the disparities that exist across, like you said, Black and brown people, disadvantaged, disenfranchised people.
Right. Right.
And look at, what kind of systemic kind of racism is happening in our community, and have an honest conversation about it. With the economic instability and lack of education and health, challenges, the neighborhood, the redlining, all of these things that have been happening for, well, I don't even want to say decades. Let's go back centuries. Mm-hmm. How do we pull that root out? That's right. And come together as decent human beings? Where's love at? Yeah. Where's caring? And I'll tell you where I found it. At the Dayton Fellowship Club.
Come on now. All right.
I was welcomed. No, and I was welcomed. Come as you are, sit down, get a cup of coffee, and listen. Just come as you are. Where have we heard that? Come as you are. Right. That's all. Just come. I'll pass.
I think that I think we ought to say that there are other grassroots organizations that do things very much like the Dayton Fellowship Club. There are a number of recovery support houses all around the city, and Ramco is a place to find them. Montgomery County Mental Health is a place to find those sites. But in terms of addressing the aspect of how do we come together as a community, I think that we cannot continue to be naive about power in our community.
Come on, yes.
For the last 3 weeks, I have been down to the commissioner meetings, addressing the commissioners about the $139 million that has already been set aside for Dayton, Ohio. So now let's think, community, all y'all that are listening out there, if you know $139 million is coming to Dayton, just step out your back door and your front door and look at what needs to be done and figure out if you are going to get some of that $139 million.
That's right.
To do what needs to be done in your front yard and your backyard. And if you do not vote, you will not have a voice. If you do not address the civic leaders, you will not be heard. And I will be keep going back down to the commissioner meetings because there is a committee already set up to talk about how this money will be distributed. And I just want to know, did anybody ask you what you think you need to be done? Did anybody ask you? Or did anybody tell you who your representative might be for your street, your block, your neighborhood? Did anybody ask you? If not, I hope you become as incensed as I am, that you will decide that you're going to tell the people who work for you because you pay their salary what you think. This is your money. Tell folks what you think.
That's right. Yeah.
The other thing I'd like to say is that the advent of media has, I'm speaking as a psychologist, the advent of media has changed the way that our children even go about understanding their world. They're exposed to far too much, far too soon, at levels of sophistication they are not even ready for. I would suggest that parents begin to monitor what their children are watching. And I would suggest that they advocate for the reintroduction of civics into school curriculums. Civics
Absolutely.
used to teach us about how to engage one another as communities and how to advocate for your community and what is the form of governance that we have in this country. So that we are informed about how to be political. And all politics means is power. Thanks.
Thank you, Doctor. And so I'm so glad that you said all of that. I agree wholeheartedly with everything, what everyone has said. Thank you again from the bottom of my heart. I really appreciate you taking the time to be here. You all are just full of experience and a wealth of knowledge. And so let's pose that question real quick. If we had it our way, right? To your point, and Mr. Brother Howard, he talked about this as well. We have $138 million coming into the Dayton community. What do you think and how we should best utilize those dollars? If you had your way and you had a seat at the table, how do you believe we should utilize those dollars to stretch those dollars into our community?
That's a great question, Shenise. I'm so glad that you asked me that, because culture.
Okay.
Because we need performing arts center. We need the arts in our community, not just downtown, not in Centerville, not somewhere else. We need it in our community. We need the theater. We need the visual arts. We need the performing arts. This is what's needed, because civilizations can't survive without culture.
Mm-hmm.
You know, these are things that we need. Our kids are, you know, I couldn't say it any better than how it's been said. I mean, that's my take. That's from my particular lens, because I'll say this real brief. There were only a few examples in my community that I could latch on to. It's hard to be something when there's no encouragement and there's no examples. And it's something that you may want to be, but you don't think you can be that because no one else has been that. And so it's hard to put that together. So it's one of the reasons that I'm really try to remain as visible as I can. Because there were a few people, and I'll give these examples, and I'm sure they don't mind me saying their names. One was Bean Davis, who's still with us, and another one for me, a personal friend of mine, his name is Reginald Harmon. Now, if I didn't have him as a, it was kind of late because I really didn't meet him until I was about 17. So, I was already into some stuff, but the seed got planted. And I was able to see the example of what he was doing. He was one of the first entrepreneurs, that I came across, and I could say, wow, I personally know this guy, and he's doing this because he's a musician as well as a visual artist. And so to sum that up, examples, it's like it's like when I came into recovery, Shenise, if there was no one there, if Jim wasn't there or Alan wasn't there or someone, Madonna, if there's no one there as an example, then I'm not going to make it. And so we need that money needs to go into our community, not just to the Schuster downtown. I love the Schuster, but we need we need things as well. We need these things, and I've seen this in other cities. You know, Memphis has a theater called the Hattie Lou, and it's a Black theater. We need these things. We need this. Just like other communities. And that's all. That's my take on that.
Yeah, and I was like, it needs to be spent, to me, like Jim said, go out your door, east and west.
That's
I mean, why can't that pot of money can be split east and west, and there's plenty to do what we need to do. We got houses on the corner just need to be torn down. We've been going through something with the city about, like, the house was vacant. They had a nice program where you could get the vacant lot. And then, we've gone through that with them. So some of the things that can be done within our prospective community. It's like I said, I'm agreeing with, like I said, downtown looks wonderful. It does. You don't need to spend no more money down there. Not one dime. Not to me, So when we need to do this, but like Jim said, we have to advocate for this. We have to be out. We got to be vocal. We got to keep asking them. Look, y'all, I know y'all see it. I got a friend. She lived right next door to the house. The roof done caved in. The city ain't got it yet. Why y'all can't see that this is a problem? Just like we have in our own experience at the club. We had the building was crumbling. We said, hey, y'all, don't y'all see this need to be torn down now? Because it was a hazard. But we kept at them and kept asking them and they done it. So I just said advocacy work. We the ones we've been looking for. Y'all, we have to advocate. We got to keep saying out there until we're tired. And then, because I come from advocacy, I'm going to say this, public. Ryan McLean, Annie Bonaparte, Willis Blackshear, Dean Lovelace. These are the people who just taught me, Jim Dobbins. I didn't know me and Jim met 30 years ago. But Jim been doing it over 60 years. Advocacy. So we got to keep trying for the next generation of people when we pass the torch, that they could see, what did you do when your city was crumbling? Did you even, we that's why we got involved with the Gym City Market. We said, hey, when we grew up, we had grocery stores. We had this type of stuff. We seen people that looked like us that were trying. We were young, we didn't know, but they were doing it, and now we have to look back. Now it's our turn. So we have a duty to try to make this a better place to live. And then we got to let them know that, hey, just don't tell us anything. Like Jim said, the committee already been formed. And no, Jim, didn't nobody ask me to be on the committee to see if they want to spend the money, because I sure would have had some suggestions.
That's okay. We're going to change that, right, Dr. Dobbins? We're going to change that.
I sure got some suggestions what to do with all that money.
That's right. That's right.
I'm gonna hop in here real quick one more time, then I'm gonna shut up for sure. But there's a committee that has been formed, and we call ourselves the Citizens for Visionary Citizens and Voters, and we have been meeting, and we have about 22 suggestions that we intend to deliver to the city. I'm very interested in talking about to anyone else. Myself, this Tommy Owens in particular, have been down to City Hall doing most of the initial talking. But other people are joining in, and we're going to deliver our suggestions to this committee. We initially asked to be seated on the committee because power exceeds nothing, and so you got to put yourself in a position to be in power. So I want to be where the decision is going to be made, because there's a friend once said, if you're not seated at the table, then you're going to be what's for dinner on the table. And so I'm not for that game. I want to be at the table.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, Dr. Dobbins, and thank you for the work that you're doing. Miss Madonna, please, if you had your way, if you had your druthers, how would you spend that $138 million? what are some things that you will immediately tackle? And
well, I want to say ditto to what everybody else said. And one of the things that kind of came to mind too is as I kind of think back over my own experience living in the community and things that are taken away is like recreation, leisure, exercise, physical health impacts mental health. You also have to kind of think about all the swimming pools, that used to be around and the recreation centers.
That's
Where's
right.
the youth supposed to go?
There you go.
That's what I want to know. I think about obesity. African Americans and people of color in this community. I mean, that is a major problem that impacts chronic, health issues. And we're more afflicted than any other, community members. I mean, so I think that some of that needs to be, first of all, kind of reallocated for where it used to be for social leisure. And like what Morris said also with cultural, activities right in our neighborhoods, whether it's north, south, east, or west, somewhere within walking distance. Can we get that?
Yeah. Those walkable communities with the amenities and the services that we need to be productive. Absolutely. So again, I can't say it enough, and I'm gonna keep saying it. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you all being with me this evening. Thank you for all your commitment, your leadership, all the work that you're doing. Thank you for sharing your testimony, your story. And we're coming to a close. So before we end this show, I definitely want to bring you all back. We're going to continue this conversation. But before we close, could you please just let everyone know how they can find you? If they have any questions, if they can reach out to you personally. We know that the Dayton Fellowship Club has a fish fry coming up this Friday. We want everyone to come out and definitely grab a plate or a basket of fish. Make sure you support the Dayton Fellowship Club and all the great work that they're doing in the community. So, Brother Howard, do you want to share with everyone some information and how they can find you, your email address or your website, or will you be there Friday for the fish fry? I know you will.
I'll be there.
All right.
I'll be there. But
who's cooking? Brother Allen, are you cooking?
It won't be me.
Yeah, we got it. We got it.
It's gonna get shut down.
Yeah, the cook got skills. Okay, the cook got skills.
All right.
But no, I'm people can contact me at morris2574@gmail.com, and I'm also sachiart.com /Morris. Momo. So or you can just Google my name, Morris T. Howard, or artist Morris Howard or something, and art will come up and things like that if people want to know more about me. So there's, I'm on Google, so people can get to.
That's right. Thank you again. I really appreciate you being here with us. Thank you, Dr. Dobbins. Can you please let everyone know how they can get in contact with you or locate some of the various initiatives you're involved with?
Well, I'm involved with my private practice, and that's at 120 West 2nd Street, Suite 400. The number there is 937-223-1612. You can also reach me on my cell, which is 1-937-271-2647. More recently, I've been engaged in starting to do some work with foster children and setting up a behavioral health service, which will be kind of like a community mental health service, which is called I'm in Control. And you can ask me about that at either one of the two numbers I've already given.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Dobbins. Miss Madonna, please, can you share with everyone how they can? You and I are going to stay in contact. I know how to find the other gentleman. I need to make sure that I know how to reach you. Yes, ma'am.
Definitely. Yes, my name is Madonna Marable again, and folks can contact me. It's real simple, madonnamarable@yahoo.com. Okay. And also, I just kind of want to just extend an invitation, because I'm a co-lead and we need participation in members, people with lived experience, or just if you just want to support the initiative. I'm a part of the Infant Vitality Maternal Health, and I'm one of the co-leads for the Substance Misuse Branch. And I've been a co-lead for about 3 years, part of Public Health, Adamus Board, and we're using a collective impact model with other organizations and lay people. And again, people like myself who may be pregnant, or people that are substance use, listen, people that want to seek recovery and just help reduce the infant mortality that is affecting Black and brown babies. And it's also affects white babies as well. So we need help. We need help. So yeah, my telephone number is 937-241-6119, or you can call Addiction Services or call Public Health, and they will put you in touch with me. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Last but certainly not least, Mr. Allen, please, sir.
Yeah, we can, he's been flashing up Dayton Fellowship Club information. So if anybody want to send me anything, just put attention Allen Walder. And my personal email is allenewalder90@gmail.com. We also want to thank Public Health and the Adamus Board, because the Ramco spent off the coast, the Community Overdose Action Team. And they, at that point, they listened enough in partnership with us back in 2017 and did collaborations to bring resources to our community. So we want to understand that there are resources, there is movement in the community, but it's much more work to be done. And we got to continue doing stuff like this, Shenise, with you, to let them know that we will not, our future belongs to us, but we have to do the work. We have to do the work. Absolutely. And I appreciate what you're doing, okay? Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you all for joining. I really appreciate it. So again, Dayton, thank you for joining another episode of Like It Is Dayton. Make sure you check us out every second and fourth Thursday. We want to give a shout out to Blaqsage. Thank you for partnering with us on this venture. This is our second go around, so we're keeping at it. Again, if you have any interesting topics, or if you would like to be a guest on Like It Is in Dayton, then please drop us a line and let us know, and we'll be happy to get you on the show. As always, peace and blessings. Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.